Dear guests, please be aware that the IPTC 2022 opening ceremony will be conducted in the English language. Arabic language translation will be available through the headset devices provided on Channel 1 and 2. ضيوفنا الأعزاء، نحيطكم علماً أن مراسم افتتاح المؤتمر الدولي لتقنية البترول 2022 تتاح باللغة الإنجليزية فقط. يمكنكم سماع الترجمة للغة العربية من خلال استخدام سماعات الترجمة عبر القناة رقم 1 و2. Welcome to the International Petroleum Technology Conference 2022 opening ceremony. For your safety, always wear a mask and maintain physical distance. In case of an emergency, please proceed to the nearest exit doors. Ladies and gentlemen, please take your seats. The IPTC 2022 opening ceremony will start in a few minutes. Welcome to the International Petroleum Technology Conference 2022 opening ceremony. Ladies and gentlemen, please take your seats. The IPTC 2022 opening ceremony will begin shortly. Welcome to the International Petroleum Technology Conference 2022 opening ceremony. Ladies and gentlemen, please take your seats. The IPTC 2022 opening ceremony will start in a few minutes. For your safety, always wear a mask and maintain physical distance. In case of an emergency, please proceed to the nearest exit doors. Welcome to the International Petroleum Technology Conference 2022 opening ceremony. Dear guests, please be aware that the IPTC 2022 opening ceremony will be conducted in the English language. Arabic language translation will be available through the headset devices provided on Channel 1 and 2. ضيوفنا الأعزاء، نحيطكم علما أن مراسم افتتاح المؤتمر الدولي لتقنية البترول 2022 تتاح باللغة الإنجليزية فقط. يمكنكم سماع الترجمة للغة العربية من خلال استخدام سماعات الترجمة عبر القناة رقم 1 و2. Welcome to the International Petroleum Technology Conference 2022 opening ceremony. For your safety, always wear a mask and maintain physical distance. In case of an emergency, please proceed to the nearest exit doors. Welcome to the International Petroleum Technology Conference 2022 opening ceremony. For your safety, always wear a mask and maintain physical distance. In case of an emergency, please proceed to the nearest exit doors. Dear guests, please be aware that the IPTC 2022 opening ceremony will be conducted in the English language. Arabic language translation will be available through the headset devices provided on Channel 1 and 2. ضيوفنا الأعزاء، نحيطكم علماً أن مراسم افتتاح المؤتمر الدولي لتقنية البترول 2022 تتاح باللغة الإنجليزية فقط. يمكنكم سماع الترجمة للغة العربية من خلال استخدام سماعات الترجمة عبر القناة رقم 1 و2. Ladies and gentlemen, please take your seats. The IPTC 2022 opening ceremony will begin shortly.
Dear guests, we will be starting very soon. Please be seated.
Ladies and gentlemen, please take your seats. The IPTC 2022 opening ceremony will begin shortly. Welcome to the International Petroleum Technology Conference 2022 opening ceremony. Ladies and gentlemen, please take your seats. The IPTC 2022 opening ceremony will begin shortly. Ladies and gentlemen, please take your seats. The IPTC 2022 opening ceremony will begin shortly. For your safety, always wear a mask and maintain physical distance. In case of an emergency, please proceed to the nearest exit doors. Dear guests, please be aware that the IPTC 2022 opening ceremony will be conducted in the English language. Arabic language translation will be available through the headset devices provided on Channel 1 and 2. ضيوفنا الأعزاء، نحيطكم علما أن مراسم افتتاح المؤتمر الدولي لتقنية البترول 2022 تتاح باللغة الإنجليزية فقط. يمكنكم سماع الترجمة للغة العربية من خلال استخدام سماعات الترجمة عبر القناة رقم 1 و2. Welcome to the International Petroleum Technology Conference 2022 opening ceremony. Welcome to the International Petroleum Technology Conference 2022 opening ceremony. Ladies and gentlemen, please take your seats. The IPTC 2022 opening ceremony will begin shortly. Ladies and gentlemen, please take your seats. The IPTC 2022 opening ceremony will begin shortly.
Dear guests, please be seated. We will be starting very soon.
His Royal Highness Prince Abdulaziz bin Salman bin Abdulaziz Al Saud is on his way to the IPTC 2022 opening ceremony. You can now view his arrival on the live feed. Please rise to welcome His Royal Highness Prince Abdulaziz bin Salman bin Abdulaziz Al Saud. السلام الملكي.
أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم.
وسخر لكم ما في السماوات وما في الأرض جميعا منه إن في ذلك لآيات لقوم يتفكرون.
Your Royal Highnesses, Honorable Ministers, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Good evening and welcome to the 14th edition of the International Petroleum Technology Conference and Exhibition under the patronage of His Royal Highness Prince Mohammed bin Salman bin Abdulaziz Al Saud, Crown Prince, Deputy Prime Minister, and Minister of Defense of the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia. And we are deeply honored this evening by the attendance of His Royal Highness Prince Abdulaziz bin Salman bin Abdulaziz Al Saud, Minister of Energy, Kingdom of Saudi Arabia. Saudi Aramco is proud to be the exclusive host of this prestigious event. And on behalf of Saudi Aramco, I would like to give a special welcome to our guests who have traveled from around the world to the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia. It is a privilege to host IPTC at the heart of global energy for the second time since 2020. We are truly delighted to see many of you here in person. My name is Dana Sana, and it is truly an honor to be the Master of Ceremony at the IPTC 2022 opening. IPTC is the largest inter-society conference in the energy sector. It is made possible through the collaboration of the American Association of Petroleum Geologists, the European Association of Geoscientists and Engineers, the Society of Exploration Geophysicists, and the Society of Petroleum Engineers. This conference serves as a platform for industry leaders, experts, and young professionals to share their knowledge and to collaborate for a sustainable future. With a global energy transition underway, IPTC 2022 is the perfect venue to focus on this year's theme: fueling global recovery through sustainable energy. Distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, let us welcome our first speaker, Mr. Adif Zulkifli, Chairman of the IPTC Board of Directors, to deliver his opening remarks.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Your Royal Highnesses, Your Excellencies, our distinguished guests, dear colleagues, ladies and gentlemen, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi ta'ala wa barakatuh, and a good evening. On behalf of IPTC, Board of Directors, and our 4 owner societies, it is my absolute honor and pleasure to welcome all of you to this year's International Petroleum Technology Conference, or what we all have come to know as IPTC. Thank you for being here with us in Riyadh this beautiful evening. I'm heartened that IPTC 2022, held under the patronage of His Royal Highness Prince Mohammed bin Salman bin Abdul Aziz Al Saud, Crown Prince, Deputy Prime Minister, and Minister of Defense of the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia, marks the return of near normalcy with a physical event that gives us an opportunity to reconnect in person. This edition in Riyadh is made even more special, with IPTC returning to the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia after its huge success in the 2020 edition. All this is made possible with the immense support and generosity of Saudi Aramco as the exclusive host. Thank you, Saudi Aramco. IPTC is unique amongst all other upstream industry events for 2 reasons. First, IPT is the only upstream event that is supported by all 4 upstream professional societies, which are the American Association of Petroleum Geologists, AAPG, the European Association of Geoscientists and Engineers, EAGE, the Society of Exploration Geophysicists, SEG, and the Society of Petroleum Engineers, SPE. This has become one of the most insightful and influential oil and gas conferences in the Eastern Hemisphere. Secondly, it alternates yearly between the Middle East and the Far East, with last year's event held virtually and hosted by Petronas. The Middle East, known for its vast oil and gas resources, complements the Far East's rapid growth in demand for oil and gas. The COVID-19 pandemic, issues on climate change, energy transition, and aspiration for net zero carbon emissions have set the industry on a new pathway to a sustainable and carbon-free energy future, based on responsibility and accountability of everyone in the value chain. The collective knowledge, capabilities, and strength in the room today are central to how successful we are as an industry to support action to achieve these goals and aspirations, as well as find tenable solutions via a multidisciplinary approach for a least disruptive transition. As an industry, we are all underway on efforts to realizing some of these commitments, and I believe that through IPTC, we play an important role in the sharing of new and current technologies, best practices over the spectrum of multidisciplinary fields in realizing these ambitious targets. On that note, I would like to extend my heartfelt gratitude to our talented volunteers from all over the world for their hard work, invaluable support, and tireless dedication to make this gathering this evening in Riyadh for IPTC 2022 a reality. I would like to also thank our sponsors and exhibitors for your generosity, which has allowed IPTC to grow and thrive year after year. My deepest gratitude to all the authors and presenters for their quality submissions, which is set to facilitate deep discussions, debates, and collaborations in line with the theme of fueling global recovery through sustainable energy. Last but not least, I would like to thank all members of staff and the Saudi Aramco team who have worked around the clock and in tandem, leaving no stone unturned in bringing you a successful IPTC. I wish all of you a productive and successful conference ahead as we convene physically after almost a 2-year hiatus. We have excellent programs and exhibitions lined up throughout the course of this event, and I'm confident that your time here will prove to be fruitful. Finally, I hope to see you in IPTC 2023, which will be held in Thailand, in its capital, Bangkok. Thank you.
Hi, it's Jim Kelly with your Energy Radio forecast. It's a beautiful sunset in Saudi Arabia tonight with clear skies.
Hey, let me show you something. Way back, we began with a dream, where everything ahead was unknown.
So we explored deeper and deeper in pursuit of the future.
And once we found it, we helped build a nation.
But that hasn't stopped us digging. Reaching into a future of unknowns.
Digital AI solutions to help support not only the upstream business within Saudi Aramco, but the entire oil and gas industry.
One thing leads to another. With new challenges come new sustainable solutions. With new technologies come new innovations. Inspiration of the fourth industrial revolution
Brings a new understanding of the world around us.
Now we're going 5,000 feet underground from the top of the drilling rig right to the target depth.
And still, we go beyond. Ever reducing our carbon intensity. Responsibly producing sustainable energy. Never satisfied with enough.
even when the rest of the world paused.
We had the agility to keep it running.
The world is changing, and we're part of that change.
Continuing to explore.
Searching for new solutions. The opportunities that lie beyond.
Now, I am pleased to invite Mr. Nasser Naemi, IPTC 2022 Executive Committee Chairman and Senior Vice President of Upstream Saudi Aramco, to the podium for his welcoming speech.
Bismillah, salatu wassalam ala Rasulullah. Your Royal Highness, Your Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, as IPTC Executive Committee Chairman, I am delighted to welcome you to the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia, to our beautiful capital city, Riyadh, and to IPTC 2022. For many of you, this is a return visit to the Kingdom. For others, it may be your first time in Saudi Arabia. Regardless, it is a pleasure and a privilege for Saudi Aramco to host you once again in what has become this industry's premier event in the Eastern Hemisphere. I would especially like to offer our deep appreciation to His Royal Highness, Prince Mohammed bin Salman Al Saud, the Crown Prince, for his patronage of our gathering, the second IPTC to be held in the Kingdom. And to His Royal Highness Prince Abdulaziz bin Salman Al Saud, Minister of Energy, for his enthusiastic participation and unlimited support. And certainly, we thank all of you, our participants, for making this what we hope will be the best IPTC yet. Ladies and gentlemen, when we gathered in Tehran 2 years ago at IPTC 2020, we spoke of long-range challenges to the industry. How could any of us have imagined the unprecedented challenge the industry, and in fact the world, was about to face? Over the course of a few short weeks, everything changed. The pandemic rapidly disrupted the global economy, every industry and every sector, every home and every business, and virtually every aspect of our lives. It tested our mettle, our resilience, and our ability to innovate and adapt to new norms. It continues to test us, but as I often remind myself, ours is an industry born of challenge. And as a global recovery works to gain momentum, we gather once again to look at the road ahead and chart the next steps in our journey. It's a future in which our reliability has never been more important, especially during a period of economic recovery. At the same time, our commitment to sustainability must be just as apparent, just as heartfelt, and just as effective. For each of us, for each of our companies, the journey will be different, but the commitment to innovate and excel is one we must share. And I believe IPTC can be a powerful catalyst in the transformation of commitment to action. For this reason, you'll find our program this year is robust. And I'm especially grateful to the IPTC Executive Committee and subcommittees for their commitment to make this a forum for true thought leadership. IPTC also depends on countless hours from volunteers and staffs around the world. And I would like to thank once again all our committee members, volunteers, speakers, exhibitors, and sponsors for their support. They have worked tirelessly to create a unique program for you this year. Ladies and gentlemen, it is so inspiring to see a hall filled with some of the brightest minds of our industry, especially after what feels like ages apart. We're together again during a historic moment for our industry. We know the world needs us now, perhaps more than ever, to ensure the energy transition leaves no nation behind. It needs our brightest talent and boldest technology to ensure continued economic prosperity, energy security, and environmental sustainability. It's a time when much is asked of this industry and much is expected. And looking out across this room, I can tell you that I have never been more confident in our ability to deliver. I welcome you all, and I wish you a wonderful IPTC 2022. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Naemi. Every journey starts with a first step. Let us now embark on a journey through time, a journey of success and achievement, and a glimpse into a remarkable future.
منذ فجر التاريخ وأرضنا مهد للحضارات، توالت وتراكمت آثارها، بنيان متين أساسه، أصيل وعميق إرثه، متنوعة ثقافاتنا وغنية بلادنا على وجه الأرض وفي أعماقها. نقشت على صخور هذه الأرض حروف المعرفة الإنسانية الأولى، فألهمت أبناءها وبناتها حتى رسمت ملامحها في قلب العالم. ينبوع الطاقة والنور تبث السلام والازدهار إلى البشرية كلها. ملتقى القارات وما هو الأفضل. هنا في الدرعية تأسست الدولة السعودية الأولى على يد الإمام محمد بن سعود، وارتفعت الراية الخضراء، انتماء أول وفخر متصل. ومن نجد إلى مجد اتحد السعوديون تحت راية واحدة، شعب يرفع طموحه بحماسة ويمضي في سبيل المعرفة واثق الخطى نحو تنمية مستدامة. تحققت الوحدة وأثمر الأمن وأزهرت الأرض بخيراتها، وارتقى السعودي بطاقاته الوثاقة. أجيال تحقق السعي، وأجيال ترث الإصرار على النماء والازدهار. ومن مجد إلى مجد بنى أرضا، رعى غرسا، واستثمر في رؤية أصيلة تعيد الاتصال بالحياة، تفتح ذراعيها بمحبة إلى العالم نحو ازدهار البشرية بصناعة آمنة للمستقبل.
Please extend the warmest of welcomes to His Excellency Yasser Al-Rumayyan, Chairman of Saudi Aramco Board of Directors.
Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Your Royal Highnesses, Your Excellencies, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen. It's a great pleasure to welcome you back to the IPTC. A lot has happened since IPTC last met in person 2 years ago. A new virus engulfed the world. Whole cities fell silent. At one point in 2020, half of humanity, 3.9 billion people, were subject to some form of lockdown. And this resulted in the biggest shock to oil demand in our lifetimes. Over the last 2 years, our industry has learned the true meaning of resilience. And for Aramco, it's a source of immense pride that, in spite of all the uncertainty, we maintained exceptionally high rates of reliability thanks to incredible efforts of our people. Another moment stands out for the company. Last year, we set out our ambition to achieve net zero Scope 1 and 2 greenhouse gas emissions across all the assets we only own and operate. I want to tell you what that means and also what it doesn't mean. It doesn't mean that we are getting out of oil and gas. Far from it. We intend to remain the world's top producer. Energy transition takes time. For instance, after years of impressive growth, there are 10 million electric vehicles on the road, which is less than 1% of the global car fleet. And new energy sources themselves depend on materials that can only be produced by hydrocarbons. Consider a wind turbine. The tower is made from steel. The base is concrete. The blades are created in resins derived from ethylene. The trucks, the ships that transport those materials run on diesel. And when the wind isn't blowing, conventional energy sources make up the shortfall. So make no mistake, oil and gas are part of this transition. We have a vital role to play, and we intend to be in business for a very long time. But we are not complacent. We have never believed that nothing about this industry has to change. Oil and gas will continue to be used for decades to come. Of that, I have no doubts. But I also have no doubts that high-cost, inefficient, high-carbon intensity producers will not be part of that future. And I know which path Aramco intends to take. With an upstream carbon intensity of 10.6 kilograms of CO2 equivalent per barrel of oil equivalent, we are amongst the lowest of any major producer in the oil and gas industry today, well ahead of the OGCI's 2025 target on upstream carbon intensity of 17 kilograms of CO2 emitted per barrel of oil equivalent. We want to retain and reinforce our leadership position. This is why we have set out our net zero ambition. Getting there will require radical innovation and a lot of advanced technologies. And so we have placed huge emphasis on turning Aramco into an IDs factory. In 2021, we were granted more than 860 US patents, more than any other energy company. We are rolling out the AI and advanced data analytics across our biggest production facilities, deploying drones, robotics by air, land, and sea. And we are intensively researching carbon capture, utilization, and storage. Our CO2 enhanced oil recovery demonstration project at Al-Rumayyan can capture and inject up to 800,000 tons per year of CO2, which is an equivalent of taking more than 170,000 passenger vehicles off the road. And this is just the start. Aramco scientists are also working on developing advanced carbon capture and storage materials, metal organic frameworks, and membranes that can separate CO2 from air at low energy costs. They hold out the possibility of direct air capture of CO2, removing CO2 directly from the atmosphere, then storing it in underground or recycling it into long-lasting materials like concrete. This is an emerging technology. Mass deployment may not be possible until the end of this decade. But in this industry, we do think in decades, not in quarters. We think, we plan, and we invest for the long term. Which is why we are also looking at brand new uses for oil and gas. With our vast gas resources and high potential for CO2 storage, we want to be a leading player in the new lower carbon hydrocarbon economy. In 1939, we shipped our first delivery of oil from Ras Al Noura. Some 80 years on, we delivered our first shipment of hydrogen in a form of blue ammonia for use in low carbon power generation in Japan. So we are excited about lower carbon synthetic fuels derived from hydrogen and CO2. We are working with the world's best, including engineers at Formula One, to drive this technology forward. Over the course of this conference, we will hear about many other brilliant ideas and solutions, innovations drawn from right across our industry. I'm looking forward to it. But in concluding, ladies and gentlemen, let me say this. It's often assumed that the only thing holding back a net zero future is a lack of ambition. That's wrong. Our industry has ambition and abundance. The truth is that there are still some very complex technology challenges that we haven't yet solved. Challenges around energy storage, around essential industrial processes for which no low-carbon alternative exists. And while others might wave away those challenges, we will confront them head-on. Because we are an industry of problem solvers. We are not driven by ideology. We are driven by what works. And this is why I have a huge confidence in the future of our industry, our capacity to transform, our ability to provide the real energy and real solution that the world expects. Thank you again for joining us, and I wish you a highly successful conference.
Now it's the moment we have all been waiting for, the inauguration of IPTC 2022. Under the patronage of His Royal Highness, Prince Mohammed bin Salman bin Abdulaziz Al Saud, Crown Prince, Deputy Prime Minister and Minister of Defense of the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia. We would like to inaugurate the IPTC 2022 by requesting His Royal Highness Prince Abdulaziz bin Salman bin Abdulaziz Al Saud, Minister of Energy, to pass his hand over the beam of light.
Your Highnesses, Your Excellencies, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen. Over the next few days, we will be focusing on the evolution of the energy sector's ecosystem and technological advancements during one of the most challenging times for our industry. We will be hearing from several industry leaders on how to achieve economic growth, social development, and environmental sustainability as the industry emerges from the global pandemic. Distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, please join me in welcoming Saudi Arabia's Minister of Energy, His Royal Highness, Prince Abdulaziz bin Salman bin Abdulaziz Al Saud, for his keynote address.
Thank you, Dana. I've always started my speeches with some job offerings to all the young Saudis, both women and men. However, tonight is not my night. Tonight is His Royal Highness Prince Mohammed bin Salman night, as he is the patron of this event, of which he would have liked to be with us here today if it wasn't for his mammoth tasks that he's attending to diligently. So it is his night, and what an honor to be designated to open this conference in his behalf. But my honor tonight is being doubled down because it comes within the period of our eve or funding day. I am hate to disappoint my speech writers, so I promised to keep it to what their wishes. I will conduct myself again knowingly that I am here representing His Royal Highness the Crown Prince, but I will have to say a few words. As you all know me, I cannot contain the jinni when the jinni comes out. So, to start with, I would like to welcome whom I call them my true band of brothers. And please, can you, in behalf of all of us as Saudis, of all of us that we saw their attendance, their diligence, their cooperation to get us all through as OPEC plus country, I have few of my friends here attending this event. So could I ask you, my friend, to stand up because we owe it to you. So I said, I'm here on behalf of His Royal Highness, the Crown Prince, in opening the 14th edition of the International Petroleum Technology Conference. I am especially pleased to be greeting you this year as we approach our founding day, marking the foundation of the first Saudi state, which is 295 years ago. So it is not the whim of a signature by a UN resolution. It was not delivered to us by removing occupation. It was delivered by us for us. My gratitude goes to Saudi Aramco and the people that are working in Saudi Aramco for hosting the IPTC. The distinguished guests and delegates to the IPTC theme this year is fueling global recovery through sustainable energy, which accurately reflect our thinking since the last time we met here 2 years ago, just as the pandemic was impacting our lives and the global economy. The Kingdom aimed to ensure the resilience of the 3 pillars of the energy world. I can't stop repeating them because it will be with us for so many years to come. Allow me to repeat them, and don't forget that I kept saying them again and again. Security of energy supply, continued economic development through access to reliable energy sources, and climate change. All 3 pillars must be attended to without compromising one for the sake of another. To this end, we have taken a number of steps to reinforce the 3 pillars. In early 2020, the producing countries of OPEC Plus and some of the other non-OPEC producers came together in a unique example of cooperation and collaboration to organize the biggest cut of supply that ever been recorded in history. This achievement was successful in its aim. The unprecedented and dangerous plunge in global energy markets was halted, and since last summer, we have put in place a careful, collaborated return of supply to meet the growing need of the rebounding global economy. But the pandemic and recovery underway has taught us the value of caution, a word that I know some people hate me for it, but heck, I will continue being cautious. And the need to retain flexibility in our strategy and adopt a long-term perspective. The frequency of the OPEC Plus meetings demonstrates our commitment to transparently managing dynamic and unpredictable events. Meanwhile, a sharp downturn in oil and gas investment is jeopardizing energy security as we see it today, and I've been warning about it for a few months. And there is a real risk that the world will not be able to produce all the energy it needs to fuel recovery. This has been compounded by uncertainty and conflicting signals in policy making in some parts of the world. The investment deficit is acting directly against the benefit of energy consumers and creating challenges for policymakers by leading to price increases and rising concern of supply shortages and certainly overall volatility. The campaign against new investment in oil and gas is short-sighted, in my belief, and is already having a negative repercussions on the global economy, recovery, and household welfare. This is why in Saudi Arabia, we continue to invest in clean oil and gas, as Yasser was saying a while ago, and in expanding our capacity. Which brings me to the second part of the theme that is pertaining to the quest for sustainability. The energy transition is accelerating, that's for sure. Of that, can be no doubt. But focusing only on selected component of this transition, like renewable or alternatives, alone would be another big mistake. Energy security demands that the world continue to pursue all energy options, including the hydrocarbon resources that have fueled the world economy and developing economies for centuries. But there is a challenge at the heart of this strategy: how to increase supplies of hydrocarbon fuel while simultaneously seeking to reduce emissions of greenhouse gases. Certainly, technology is key to solving this challenge. Sustainability is a natural outcome of the circular carbon economy framework that the Kingdom advocates, will continue to advocate, and will continue to pursue, and we will take a lead, and we will showcase the world that we can do it, and the rest of the world can follow. But it's also been endorsed by the G20 leaders once again in Rome just last year. Technology is at the heart of the crucial innovation of the future, like the hydrogen economy, hydrocarbon sustainability, petrochemical, and intelligent energy systems. Innovation technology will be vital as we all roll out the Saudi Green Initiative, which aim to generate half of our domestic energy requirement from renewable by 2030, and the ambition to reach net zero carbon emission by 2060, and if technology helps us, we can even achieve that ahead of that date. I should remind you that the net zero does not mean cherry picking. Net zero does not mean zero oil. Innovative technologies or techniques are already being applied in the field of direct capture, as Yasser was alluding to, greenhouses, and in the critical industrial processes of carbon-cured concrete. I'll tell you why Yasser was referring to it, because we have a wonderful program called Sustainability of Oil Consumption, and this program is being attended to and coordinated by the ministry. It encompasses almost 70 different government agencies, along with every company that can be a contributor, be it a national or state-owned company, or even in collaboration with technology providers and technology developers. We intend to go for one simple approach: prove and deploy. That's it. We will move, we will prove the technology, and then subsequently deploy the technology. With that, we do believe that we can take the lead. As you know, and as Yasser was saying when he gave a few examples on hydrogen, on carbon sequestration, on air capture, on also green hydrogen and definitely blue hydrogen. We have the enablers, we have the will, we have the capacity, we have the engineers, we have the programs, and we have the youth. Don't you ever underestimate the ambitious youth of Saudi Arabia today. I have been a privileged person to work with thousands and thousands of young women and men of Saudi Arabia. I see their determination every day. I see their commitment every day. I see their exercise of will, of wanting to be something in the future, and want to be the achievers of the futures. So, on behalf of all of them, for our guests here, I welcome you in the youthful Saudi Arabia. And I could stand here for 10 minutes, and I could use all the adjectives that I can try to explain how much this youthful generation is in terms of being so ambitious, so determined, so resilient, so enthusiastic, so determined, so every word that you can think of what a generation can achieve and what a generation can do, guided by their leadership in the name of the custodian of the two holy mosques, Prince King Salman, and also by a youthful young crown prince who is leading all of these ambitions and who is determined to make the future of this country a more green country, ambitious country, not inhibited society. Where we see ourselves today is in Riyadh. Riyadh is a city of joy today. Riyadh is a city of everything that people can be mesmerized with. All what you need to do is check when you were in Riyadh 5 years ago and walk around in Riyadh today and see for yourself the true difference. And more important, ask yourself, if this society delivered in less than 5 years what we have delivered today, can you imagine what this country can deliver into 2030? I will leave it for you to answer. Thank you.
Your Royal Highness, may I please ask you to remain on stage? Thank you. Your Highness, thank you for sharing your enlightening thoughts with us. We will now proceed with the next highlight of this evening's program, the 14th IPTC Ministerial Panel Session, titled Fueling Global Recovery Through Sustainable Energy. Ladies and gentlemen, I am delighted to invite our distinguished panel of ministers to join His Royal Highness Prince Abdulaziz bin Salman bin Abdulaziz Al Saud, Minister of Energy, Kingdom of Saudi Arabia, on the stage. His Excellency Dr. Mohammed Abdul Latif Al Faris, Deputy Prime Minister, Minister of Oil and Minister of Electricity, Water and Renewable Energy, Chairman of the Board, Kuwait Petroleum Cooperation, State of Kuwait. Sheikh Mohammed bin Khalifa Al Khalifa, Minister of Oil, Kingdom of Bahrain. His Excellency Suhail Mohammed Al Mazroui, Minister of Energy and Infrastructure, United Arab Emirates. His Excellency Ihsan Abdel Jabbar Ismail, Minister of Oil, Republic of Iraq. His Excellency Tariq Al Mullah, Minister of Petroleum and Mineral Resources, Arab Republic of Egypt. And the moderator of the Ministerial Panel Session, Ms. Laura Backwell.
Your Royal Highness, Your Excellencies, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, a very warm welcome to you all to the Ministerial panel here on the stage this evening with 6 of some of the most senior leading energy officials in the world. Well, the theme of the IPTC this year, of course, is fueling global recovery through sustainable energy, which is where we're going to focus much of our discussion here this evening. And I'm hoping it's going to set the tone for the next 2 days for you all as well. Well, first and foremost, it is actually quite rare to have 5 OPEC Plus members on the stage at the same time. So I'd actually quite like to ask a question to each of you on that subject, if I may. And we'll go down in order, shall we? Do you see any good reason for OPEC Plus to make any changes to its current agreement? And what would the landscape look like if that agreement wasn't in place? Let's start off with the Minister here from Kuwait, of course, His Excellency Dr. Mohammed bin Abdul Latif Al Faris.
Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Thank you very much. First of all, I would like to have the opportunity to thank the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia for inviting us in this beautiful capital of Riyadh and my greeting to the patronage of Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman for his invitation to be part of this for the first time for the IPTC. And would like to thank my friend and brother, His Royal Highness Emir Abdulaziz, for being a part of this event and to be part of this beautiful panel and colleagues. Coming back to your question, I think it's a very clear and very obvious that the story of OPEC and OPEC Plus during the last 2 years and hopefully continuing to the end of this year showed that having such an agreement of cooperation that put in place made the right approach of how harmony could be done in the very volatile industry of the oil sector. I think it's very clear and very obvious that today, what we reached up to this moment of time, that the balance between supply and demand and making sure that what the market needs and the economy needs is well fulfilled. So definitely what we will be guaranteed and make sure to respect how this agreement and OPEC and OPEC Plus could work together. I think the mechanism that was set in this agreement showed to the whole world that we can make sure that we are very sensitive how the market is reacted and make sure that we have a mechanism which clearly identified how we can approach the market on a monthly basis. And that mechanism showed very clearly how beautiful is this mechanism is working and how it reflected to the market. So I would say that coming back to your question, yes, I think that we're going to continue doing what we're doing, and we have to respect that agreement. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Your Excellency. We move on over to His Excellency Ihsan bin Abdul Jabbar Ismail, the Minister of Oil for Iraq. And I'd like to ask you the same question, if I may. Do you see any changes within the agreement in the near future? And also, what would the landscape look like without this agreement in place as well?
Thanks. I have to repeat something to thanks to Kingdom of Saudi Arabia to give the opportunity for this. I agree with His Excellency Minister of Oil of Kuwait. I say that for the benefit of all the energy market, OPEC Plus should stay with the continuing and sustained the current agreement. And any change, any dramatic change in that maybe will cause something unbalanced for the market. So yes, staying with the current agreement, with the current discussion, monthly discussion for the market, how we can keep the market balancing, how we can keep the demand and the supply in this range, to avoid any surprise for the future. That is for the benefit for all, for the benefit of consumer and producer. That's it.
Thank you so much, Your Excellency. Thank you. We move on over to Egypt, to His Excellency Tariq Al-Molla, Minister of Petroleum and Mineral Resources for Egypt. Now, you've very much been a supporter of OPEC+. What's your sort of take on that? Can you see any changes in the near future as well?
Well, for Egypt, perhaps we all know we are yet not at the OPEC+, so we are observers. And really we have seen so far very successful policies made in place. And I really would say that with these good policies, I think they've been able successfully to manage supply-demand over the past challenging period. And I think that they have the rationale and the good expertise to embark for the coming period. So I believe in this good coalition of OPEC+. And from our position, I think it's a good and successful one. Let me just start by saying that I'm grateful for being here tonight. I thank His Royal Highness Prince Abdulaziz for inviting me to be with you tonight in this important IPTC conference and big event, and being in this panel with my colleagues, the Royal Highness and the Excellencies together, and seeing the big change and growth happening over the last few months here now, with starting from the Saudi Green Initiative to the investment conference, then the mining conference last month, and then here today. So we're very happy to be always with our Saudi brothers. Thank you.
Thank you so much. There really has been a lot going on, of course. Your Excellency Suhail bin Mohammed Al Mazrui, Minister of Energy and Infrastructure for the United Arab Emirates. Your comments, please.
Thank you. First of all, I would like to thank His Royal Highness, the Crown Prince, Prince Mohammed bin Salman bin Abdulaziz, for bringing together or supporting this great gathering of technical expertise from all over the world in representing the region and hosting IPTC. And I would like to thank my brother, His Royal Highness Prince Abdulaziz, for his invitation. This is a great question. And as you know, this group of producers came together and have done a great help to all of us. And we're proud in UAE that we are part of this group. And this group is always looking at the supply and demand. And we all know what is the reason behind the hike in the prices that we are seeing. We are on a journey to attain to the market by gradually increasing our production. And we think that plan is attaining to the supply and demand. Anything outside that is not going to be our job. And we are all hoping that, we're all hoping for the de-escalation, and we're hoping that we will see the prices goes back to the supply and demand only. I think our plan has been working, and I don't believe that the market is hugely undersupplied currently. It's the other factors that outside our hands which is impacting the market. Thank you.
Thank you, Your Excellency. Thank you. And now over to His Excellency Sheikh Mohammed bin Khalifa bin Ahmed Al Khalifa, Minister of Oil for Bahrain.
Thank you. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. أسعد الله مساكم. سمو الأمير شكرا على حسن الضيافة. So just allow me to take this opportunity to remember the past. I can't believe it's 2 years ago that we were in IPTC with His Royal Highness. Somebody has to credit back those 2 years that we lost. But 2020 is one for the history books. And I'm saying this for the sake of the esteemed audience. Without too much detail, there was a meeting conducted in July of 2020. And it was the most important meeting in the history of petroleum diplomacy. stewarded by His Royal Highness Prince Abdulaziz. The oil industry was at the edge of the abyss. It was at world's end. I remember having a telephone call with Vicky Holub, the CEO of Occidental Petroleum, and she was there. And I told her not to worry. The captain of the ship is going to steer us out of it. And he did. We are here. His Royal Highness doesn't need my praise. I am saying this for the sake of historians. This has to really be studied. We were staring at the edge of the abyss. I remember it very vividly. That one meeting turned it around. And I don't know how many countries were there, but 20 million barrels were taken out of the markets to bring balance. So, Your Royal Highness, may I ask the audience to join me in giving you a standing ovation, like you'd have. So to simply answer the question, ask the captain of the ship. He knows exactly what he's doing.
Thank you so much. Over to the captain of the ship. Exactly, Your Royal Highness, Prince Abdulaziz bin Salman Al Saud, Minister of Energy for the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia. Your thoughts, please.
The weather is nice tonight in Riyadh. We Riyadhians, like Aramcons, we are very festive people these days. We're enjoying our lives. We're conducting ourselves as easy goers. We're becoming the town of fun and joy, and we are attracting people to come. And we are festive. Why? Because, as my friend from Egypt was saying, he was here like 3 times just this month. Why? Because this country is in full motion. Why we are in full motion? Because we are trying to catch up with the lost years, the lost decades. Why? Because we owe it to our youth, and the youth is taking over from all of us. Those who were handicapping the youth are no longer capable of containing the youthful, ambitious Saudis that I keep talking about. For us to deliver for them, we have to have a stable growth, stable economy, sustainable economy. We cannot afford no longer sitting on our hands, not being too excessively proactive in assuring ourselves that we will protect our country. As I speak on behalf of everybody here, we protect our economies. And there is nothing called free lunch in today's world. You have to fend for your own self. But fending for your own self alone in our business, in our industry, doesn't work. You've got to work out and develop yourself a cohesive group of willing partners that have the same common denominators that you have with them. If you define and find that group, or as I call them, the band of brothers, well, even in wars, band of brothers, they don't leave their friends at risks, and they fend for themselves, and they work collaboratively in attending to something. That's something, as what my friends were saying, it was an impossible. But I owe it to a person that if you asked me on the 6th of March 2020 and said, is it conceivable that the whole world will go through that fiasco of April 2020? I will tell you it is impossible. But what would be more impossible, and I would have been daydreaming to think that the remedy that we all put together to achieve us the stability that we have earned now would have been even further more impossible to achieve. So, but in being honest with myself, first and foremost, and then honest with whoever is hearing me today, I have to say it, and I have to say it because I am after saying the truth and bestowing the right honor for the person who delivered us. And his name is Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman bin Abdulaziz. Publicly, with all my honesty, I will tell you, I would not have delivered that. I could not have delivered that. I could not have imagined that. And if you can accept it as a person where I would like to cleanse my consciousness from any remnants of any egotism, but for people that know me, I'm long in so many things, but certainly short of egotism. Am I correct, Amin? But because I am, and because my colleagues are, we managed to do things because it was so crucial that the size of production and the size of a country was not the relevant issue. What is the relevant issue was the bottom-up consensus building approach that we have created. That is the only thing that delivered this until today. And that what will make us continue delivering our ambitions of the future. We need to keep this consensus building approach be with us permanently, because without it, we will lose sight of our ambition, collective ambition, and if we can not achieve our collective ambition, we can never achieve our individual ambitions. So, I ask everybody in the industry who are here, we did not deliver also to our countries or our societies. We delivered to the global industry. Ask any producer anywhere in planet Earth who produce oil or gas today. If it wasn't for OPEC Plus, would they be the chairmen and the CEOs of today? And the answer, they would have vanished from planet Earth. And they could have been swallowed by another company, gone to the wind, or what have you. What we need transparency, because we have been transparent. The monthly meeting delivered this. Our commitment to the 400 delivered us. We speak with a fluent English. I think by now you can give us that edge. We communicate with the media, yes we do. We issue our numbers as OPEC and in monthly reports, yes we do. What we're getting, unfortunately, is not the reciprocation that we're hoping for. And I'll give you an example. And permit me, my friends, to speak on your behalf for something we've been quiet about it for the last week or so. We have our friends from the IEA. They've been throwing all sorts of numbers. But the funniest set of numbers was issued in December by saying we have a lower demand than OPEC and everybody else in planet Earth by roughly around 800 million barrels of demand. And that story was with them for the last few months, even before the end of 21. Then all of a sudden, they realized that there is so-called missing barrels. So in January, they came up with their report about 730 million barrels of missing barrels. The most illuminating thing about their reporting is that in their latest February report, we have seen, if you permit me to say it, a combination of third-rate sequel of Blame It in Rio plus Finding Nemo. All of a sudden, they said, we found the missing barrels. Where is it? Being consumed in Saudi Arabia ever since 2007. Not 17, 2007. And the rest, somewhere in China and somewhere else. Heck, I mean, if I, as a energy minister, or Yasser as a chairman of Aramco, or Amin as a CEO, we don't know whether we were consuming 500,000 barrels more than we report to our government, to our auditors, and the IEA is only alerting us that, by the way, you're consuming that 500,000 and it's not in your radar. If this is helpful, I don't know what else we could do. In the same vein, they continue bragging about not to invest in oil and gas, not to bring capacities. Yet, only 2 days ago, in the IF, he was seeking more production from OPEC Plus, attributing lack of engagement from OPEC Plus. I don't think that this is a kind of a congenial form of appreciation to what OPEC Plus is being doing. And therefore, you could see us tonight, and if you bring the 23 ministers representing the OPEC Plus, you will see the unanimity, because we believe strongly that we have delivered for ourselves, and I'm sorry for taking that much of a time. We have delivered to ourselves, to our economy, to our people, and to the entire industry. And if we run a vote in anywhere in planet Earth, especially from our friends, I wouldn't be specific, but run a vote and see how much appreciate OPEC Plus, and I think we will be comfortably saying we do have a global constituency. Thank you.
Thank you so much there to His Royal Highness. I'd now like to focus on the different energy transitions that each of you are going through at the moment, and essentially what the core of each of those are. So I'd like to start with Your Excellency Dr. Mohammed bin Abdul Latif Al Faris. How exactly is Kuwait addressing its policies in order to ensure success in the development and economic goals which are underlined by the circular carbon economy, very much that His Royal Highness has been talking about earlier as well? And what exactly are those goals? Maybe you could also tell us a little bit more about the role of government as well in that.
Well, let me start with the following statement. I think today, as this event is going to continue and hopefully it's going to deliver its objectives, and continuing with the discussion that we've been doing this along many of the meetings that we have, I think I can rest assured that I can make that statement of that Riyadh and the whole region is setting up right now what I call it the capital of transition energy. How to do it the right way. And hopefully that's what we're going to see in the next in the next decade of how we can do whatever needed to be done to make sure that we have an efficient set of objectives and goals set by almost the same set of governments and same set of policies. So in the state of Kuwait, I think we took a little bit of a conservative path, but definitely we are in line with the whole region of how to approach such carbon capture and how to make sure that we have a zero net carbon process. In the state of Kuwait, I think, let me make we took the strategy and along the whole countryside that we can develop a transition, easy transition to a low carbon by 2035. And a strategy and approach will be set and will be developed on a continuous basis to make sure that can happen. For example, in the oil sector, what we call the oil industry in Kuwait, there is a strategy that was set to make sure that many approaches to how carbon capture is implemented. So one of them is, I'm sure everybody will talk about, is like the blue hydrogen and how to recycle the carbon itself. So there's many examples that we can work on, and we've been doing that and piloting such technologies. And I think in the state of Kuwait has officially adopted the principle of circular carbon economy. That was officially by the government itself. So it took it as a policy, as a government policy that will be developed in the next 20 years. Also dealing with climate change, and I think we've been at COP26, and we're going to do hopefully next moving into Egypt for COP27, and moving along to United Arab Emirates in COP28. The whole policy of carbon capture and how the circular carbon economy can be developed and can be showcased in such events, and hopefully that can be developed easily. We mandated many ministries within the state of Kuwait to follow the circular carbon economy and carbon capture utilization. I think reducing emission is one of them. I think we've been doing very well in that category. Eliminating carbon through agriculture. Also, that's something that in the state of Kuwait, we've been working on that. Also, capturing carbon for the reuse to manufacture. I think you saw today about how we can do that through the developing a kind of a cement blocks for such industry. Injecting liquefied carbon into the reservoir for enhancing recovery. A pilot is underway right now in the state of Kuwait, doing such a project. Conveying carbon into products such as fertilizers and cement as a project for industries. Carbon footprint reduction by blue and green hydrogen technology. And I think, as I stated, it is under study and to be piloted shortly. Waste plastic recycling is another technology that will be utilized, and hopefully that's going to be produced and introduced into the state of Kuwait. So there's many approaches for the circular carbon economy and how to approach it. So we've been showcasing emission reductions, we've been showcasing decarbonization, and definitely working on the carbon reuse. So many examples has been showcased, and we are going to develop, and we're going to align with many of the policies stated by oil industries and oil countries. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. The research and development stage really is essential at this point going forward as well. I'd like to move over now to His Excellency Suhail bin Mohammed Al Mazrui over in the United Arab Emirates. Now, the UAE has pledged a net zero target by 2050, if I'm right, and also you're going to be overseeing $163 billion in investment in renewable energy. That is a phenomenal amount. What exactly are you prioritizing right now going forward?
Well, before answering the question, I'll tell you about from where that number came. Back in 2016, we started a strategy, and in that strategy, we've been asked as the first ministry to think of 2050. And we put a model together, and we modeled how much we would consume, and we were relying heavily on just natural gas back then, and we put a forecast till 2050, and both OPEX and CAPEX in the field of electricity generation would cost us $353 billion. So then I asked the team, let's think now, how can we make some savings? And long story short, we were thinking that going green would be more expensive. But for us, going green did make sense, and it saved us $191 billion, just going with 50% green. And that clean is both nuclear, of course, and as well as solar. And since then, we started to think positively about the transition and about transitioning to the cleaner forms of energy. And we did not stop in our country. We also tried to work with other countries, and now I can tell you that we have projects in around 40 countries, and where we are helping them with either solar or wind. And I'm very proud as well, and I'm sure His Royal Highness is, of what Aqua Power is doing, as well as they are deploying this technology and those investments in other countries. So we're not just an oil producer, we are a clean energy promoter, and I think this is to be added to what His Royal Highness said regarding the balancing the market. But where we are going in UAE, we believe hydrogen will have a green or an attractive market, and we are aiming to be part of that future market. Actually, we're targeting 25% market share. We have deployed or put an alliance together. We're working both on different kinds of fuel using hydrogen, and we believe that blue hydrogen would be the first to be used, but also green hydrogen is coming. We inaugurated the first green hydrogen plant, and we are studying now the use of it. I'm part of a task force looking at aviation fuel, and part of my portfolio is also sea transportation. So we are also looking at sea transportation utilization of hydrogen in the future. So those, and I think in a conference, a technical conference like this, those are the areas that we would like the young people to focus on. Hydrogen is within our industry as a petroleum, the blue hydrogen, and I'm sure if we put the right investments and the right mindset, we can innovate and we can find ways of how we utilize it. But UAE is bullish about the future of green energies, and we think while we're doing that, we need also to continue investing in fossil. We need to produce low, like His Excellency Yasser Al-Rumayyan mentioned, the low intensity. I think barrels will come from the Gulf states better than anyone else, and we are eminent to join in this efforts and to clean up our barrels. And I bet you today we are the lowest, but in the future we will be even more cleaner than any other barrel on earth, and that's part of the contribution.
Very exciting times ahead indeed. Thank you so much to Your Excellency there. Moving over to His Excellency Sheikh Mohammed bin Khalifa bin Ahmed Al Khalifa, Minister of Oil for Bahrain. Now, Bahrain, I've been reading as well, has also pledged to reach net zero by 2060. Are you on track? And also, how will a circular carbon economy come into play within that? And tell us maybe a little bit more about the importance of collaboration as well going forward.
Okay, well, I think Bahrain is unique because of all the countries represented here, we're considered a small island state. And small island states are looked at differently when it comes to the agenda of climate change. Now, it's very difficult for us to separate from being an oil exporter as well, but they always have trouble with us at the United Nations. So we had collaborated with the Green Climate Change Fund, which is an offshoot of the United Nations Framework Agreement for combating climate change, and they've worked with us on several things. The government is well underway with its targets of both achieving net zero and with having a percentage of its energy generated through renewables. Now, one of the fundamentals of doing that is to make sure you have a foundation of creating value from CO2. Now, if you're able to sequester CO2 and create value, and not just the cost, you have to make it fiscally responsible, it has to be economic. Eventually, and this is probably the biggest contributor, at least for Bahrain, in carbon emissions, is burning natural gas in power stations. Now, the technology isn't ready yet, but once turbines can burn pure hydrogen, you can basically split the hydrogen atom at the power station and sequester the CO2 using something called an SMR, a steam methane reformer. But still, turbines are not ready. If you are capable of creating value from CO2, probably the easiest thing for us in the region, given that we have a lot of carbonate reservoirs, is to sequester oil to enhance oil recovery, but also, and for the sake of Aramco, they don't require EOR at this point, but it could potentially increase your reserves. If that's a target that you can justify, you can pump CO2 into existing oil reservoirs, and you will gradually increase your producible reserves. But that's maybe an idea to look at. Once you have a CO2 value chain, as the technology ripens, you will be able to reduce your emissions. That's mitigation. Of course, and adaptation targets will also be targeted by greenery, planting more trees, looking at mangroves, but making it fiscally reasonable, making it economic. That's probably going to be the main challenge.
Thank you so much. Well, we move from Bahrain over to Iraq. His Excellency Ihsan bin Abdul Jabbar Ismail. Tell us about the latest developments within Iraq's shift towards alternative energy and also more reliance on the green economy. What's happening over in Iraq? And I've been reading about your 5-year plan as well. Tell us a little bit more about that when it comes to generating 63% of electricity from clean energy within the next 5 years.
Thanks. Iraq have approved a strategic energy transition strategic 2020-2030. This strategy is depend on freezing all the power generation depend on the hydrocarbon fuel to 33 gigawatt and adding the required capacity from the solar energy, maximum solar energy and other clean energy. Till now, we have good progress in that. We have a deal with Masdar for 1 gigawatt, and there is a contract with Total, another 1 gigawatt, and there is 525 deal with Scatec, Norwegian company. There is 1 gigawatt as EPC contract with Power China. And over that, there is also 1 gigawatt with Aquapower. There is a discussion with Aquapower for long-term agreement about how we can secure a term for future of solar energy producing to secure the gap in Iraq. Iraq is, mashallah, now 40 million population. We have 1.3 growth. We have more than 3.1 growth percentage. That means every year there is 1.3 million new population. There is every year 5% growth in energy consumption. So we try to fix something with Aquapower about how we can make a technical service contract with Aquapower, something like that, to secure the shortage and the gap in solar energy. We have a good deal with Total in Iraq about pilot project for hydrogen. We have a progress with BB for solar energy. BB is one of the biggest IOCs in Iraq. They operate Rumayyan with 1.4 million barrels per day. So there is a develop for the contract with them. We established with them Basra Energy Company Limited to secure some investment for clean energy in Iraq. So the progress in that in Iraq really give good message that Iraq can do something in that. We try to be in the right way because keeping the power generation depend on hydrocarbon is costly for Iraq. Iraq is have shortage in gas. We import gas from outside Iraq. So going ahead with solar energy is not only climate change, it is commercial issue, economic issue. Iraq is sunny and we have good space for to develop that. So this is our strategic and clear. We did something good during the last 2 days. In the national budget, there is a sovereign guarantee for any project for solar energy exceeding 500 megawatt. So there is strategic plan and there is annual budget to secure the budget for that. So that's in brief what we did for solar energy. Thank you.
Sounds very positive going forward indeed, yes. We move over from Iraq over to Egypt. His Excellency Tariq Al-Mullah. Tell us a little bit more about your vision over in Egypt. You've also got COP27 coming up. Is that going to play quite a big part for you going forward? And how important do you feel the role of hydrocarbons is going to be in terms of driving and accelerating this energy transition?
Thank you. Actually, perhaps for the hydrocarbons, and since the beginning of this session, so from the speeches that we've heard from His Royal Highness Prince Abdulaziz and His Excellency Yasser and the panel, I think that we all now believe that hydrocarbons will be there for decades to come. And the idea is now how we in Egypt are doing and to adopt the energy mix, the proper energy mix that we could then bridge this transition period. And this is what we have done since a few years back. We did put our energy strategy for 2035, by which the combination of energy mix for the renewables would be and targeting to have 42% of renewables by the year 2035. Actually, we have currently a 20% installed. So actually the contribution would be currently about 10% of our energy mix coming from renewables, and this includes solar, wind, and hydro. We have also nuclear under construction, so we will have this combination in the coming years. Meanwhile, as we said, since we are talking about the importance of hydrocarbons for our lives, so in this case, we have chosen primarily the natural gas as our transit energy, and hence we are trying to expand on the utilization of natural gas in Egypt. Therefore, all the industrial and let me say conversion of vehicles running into CNG, expansion in the household connections rather than LPG bottles, so connecting them with natural gas and so forth. So we are trying to take this advantage of having some good reserves of natural gas offshore, whereby to have this transition prudently. Meanwhile, we together with our partners, our energy partners, they have definitely adopted their integrated energy solution in their partnership with us. So therefore, what we are currently undergoing together is how to do responsibly and to manage the emissions while producing still our fossil fuels and specifically natural gas. So this is something very important that we are undergoing currently with all our partners, major partners and service companies. And this, we would like to tie it to, as you mentioned, COP27. So COP27, being the host of COP27 in November, we are definitely preparing for this COP, not only within Egypt, definitely with our partners, with our friends countries, and in order to make sure that we could really reflect discussions like the ones that we had today in this conference. We need to make sure that we would be vocal in talking about having to comply with Paris Agreement and all the COPs in a commitment for a cleaner planet, lesser emissions, neutrality, carbon neutral, meanwhile to capitalize our resources. We need to have and to capitalize and to develop our natural resources, fossil resources, in order to make sure that this would serve as the returns to make sure that we can invest in this bridging period of transition, because this needs investments, we need technology, and we need funds. This wouldn't happen without either capitalizing on our resources. I'm not talking here about only Egypt, but I'm talking also about the African continent. Meanwhile, as we've all heard today, that there are pressure on investments for fossil fuels, so therefore we need to be vocal in having alternative financing methods in order to make sure that we could be able to still produce and increase our reserves of this important energy resource. So, stating this quickly, I just wanted to say that we are planning to have good cooperation with the previous host for COP26, so the UK, as well as our coming country that will follow will be the UAE, in order to have a narrative that would continue on being vocal, as I said, to make sure that everybody would understand the importance of this prudent, rational, and reasonable, just transition. Thank you.
Thank you so much. We move back over to His Royal Highness. Speaking of investment, that was my next question to you, actually, because since the pandemic, there has been a distinct lack of investment across many countries, many companies off the back of the pandemic. That's obviously not the case within the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia. What exactly are you prioritizing at the moment going forward? And also, I wanted to ask you very quickly about technology as well. Is there anything that you're very excited about going forward as well?
The best part of technology is this button here, that I could just flick it and it will be disquieting for me, because I can't help it but to see Amin Nasser is about to sleep. And that goes for all Aramcos. But mindful of the time and the sleeping temptations of our friends from Aramco, and it's the nature of the industry. They're the early birds of Saudi Arabia, and that goes from Dhahran to all the way to Houston, Texas. So, and even Aberdeen, not to mention other energy capitals. But be it as it may, I think I did mention once or twice that in April 2020, in the thick of the misery, we made the announcement of going to 13 million barrels of capacity. There is no other meaningful way of explaining ourselves than having to anchor it to that day that we made that decision. Why? Because we believe strongly that, and along with the Green Initiative, along with the Middle East Initiative, along with the commitment of Aramco to go for net zero 2050, along with our commitment of 2060, and perhaps, and hopefully and most likely even sooner with the technology drive, keep in mind that we are the only country who had committed to a number without attributing to that number to any type of financial support, financing, or any subsidy or any incentives, financial incentives. We are only seekers of technological support and collaboration, not support even, collaboration. With that, we believe strongly, unlike the conventional wisdom, that hydrocarbon can be utilized in so many different ways. So we are even out there with our sustainability program, trying to figure out ways and means of how you consume hydrocarbon, yes, in a more sustainable way, in a clean way, and that goes for oil and gas and everything else. And because of that, we're not confined to what is available today. We are much more in search for what will deliver us. How can we use every molecule that this country can produce in an effective, efficient, cost-effective, efficient, and sustainable way, whereby we can still consume these molecules, put it to a good use, and also being creative in trying to find means and ways of different ways of consuming it. What we are spending most of our money in is technology development. How we are developing that, we work in a ecosystem approach. We bond with everybody. There is literally no energy program in Saudi Arabia that I can think of that we don't work cohesively with so many agencies. Goes from ministries to regulatory bodies to the PIF to the state-owned companies. Everybody and anybody that has anything to do is plugged in. Why we do it? Because it takes that to happen. How we do it? We become very mindful, extremely mindful of the governance of these institutions. And once the governances of these institutions are protected and attended to, and no one would infringe on them, people would be much more in their comfort zone. I take the greatest pleasure of being a regulator of this industry, but I think if you ask our friends in, be it Aramco, be it the electricity company, be it SABIC, they would see, I hope they do, but take them on the side and ask them, probably they would answer you that the ministry as a regulator is an enabling regulator. It's not an inhibiting regulator. We deliver things that they cannot deliver for their own selves, and we make sure that they, in achieving their ambitions and goals, we're there with them, supportive with them, and bringing them more and more enablers that enable them to achieve their targets and their goals. The recipe of the future is all of us are invited to collaborate to bring more technologies. I think the invitation also goes for let us collaborate on emission reductions of all greenhouse gases of all sectors. If you want to be comprehensive, you need to be inclusive. If you want to be inclusive, then you should not be mindful, or as I said in my speech, cherry picking what source of energy you should use. We should all use all of the above, so long as it is abated, so long as emissions are mitigated.
Thank you so much. I'm rather conscious of the time. I'm not sure how much time we actually have left. However, I'd like each of you to wrap up, just in a couple of sentences, if possible, on your final comments on how to fuel global recovery through sustainable energy. What are your final remarks? What would you like to leave our audience with this evening?
I think there's one thing that I always make sure that I bring it to the table, and especially being of a background of an educator more than an oil minister. Education and making sure that investment in the youth, and I think I commend Amir Abdulaziz on his investment in the youth. I think education and making sure that we start to invest in developing curriculums and starting to develop education toward understanding energy transition on how to do that. And I think there's a lot of things, investments have to be done in our education system where we can bring up more understanding and to the youth of the future. And I think that there is going to be a lot of difficult questions and difficult answers and difficult decisions have to be made in the coming 20, 30 years toward how to handle energy transition and make it a very difficult decision at that level. On the level of how to invest and make sure that technology is have to be part of the understanding of how energy transition have to be developed. Technology is without technology, there is no transition. And there is a fine line between transition and chaos. And if we do not invest and bring up more technology in the mix of how to, whether in the gas or oil and gas field or in renewable energy, something that may not impact directly, but eventually it's going to have a major impact in the next decade or 20 years. So I think there's going to be, we have to invest in technology. Technology is a savior of how we can promote energy transition and balancing between energy transition and how investing in the oil industry. And I think I have to make sure everybody understand, and I'm sure they do, everybody here do understand that as the oil industry gets aged, it costs us more to invest in the oil industry. So balancing between how much you want to invest in the oil industry and oil production and how to do the transition, energy transition balance is very difficult. And that's why I think it's a fine line, and we have to balance it off and make sure that it goes in parallel. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Your Excellency. Thank you. Your Excellency, your final remarks and your key message to our audience this evening.
Thank you. Energy transition is given, but the more clear is the energy transition needs decades. It's not something we speak about next year or next 5 years. There are some statements, some speech about what is the time-wise in that. I'm sure that the energy transition is something normal. It is natural issue. It began, any transition is began historical issue, but the time is the key in this time. Iraq is think that we have to invest in that. We inject more than $3 billion with Shell and BGC, Basra Gas Company, to utilize all the gas. On the other hand, we invest with Total for future projects, and there is a clear message from Iraq to all our counterpart or to all our partners that the energy transition is one of our targets, and we try to provide all the logistics, all the infrastructure, the human resources, and the investors for that. But we think that the time is something we have to apply in that. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Your Excellency.
Thank you. So actually, I just want to be brief and right to the point. In similar conferences and important events, as well as the one that we had in Cairo last week, and through the year, we will have definitely different places in the world, similar events. I think that we've been very aligned in what we are saying, and we are very we comprehend very well what we are talking about, and there is more and more alignment. What we need to do, in my opinion, is that getting ready to COP27, which we will be hosting, I think it will be the place where we have to align our efforts and get out with clear messages by which we will get some good resolution from COP27, and then we could implement what we spoke about over this session and previous sessions, so that we can have, as we always been talking about, and we at least got this in COP27, which is common responsibilities, however different ways to and capabilities in implementing. So we need to make sure that each and every country, according to its scale and its different revenues and challenges, could be represented and could then be vocal, and we could then have a tailor-made solution to everybody. We are living in one planet, and I think that it's not fair to take different measures for a level that other countries wouldn't be able to implement. So I encourage everyone in this conference, every country and everybody would connect with our committee in order to make sure that we are all having a one voice in COP27. Thank you.
Your Excellency.
Thank you. I'll try to be brief and not to repeat if I can. I think we need, in order for us to prepare for tomorrow and for our future, this planet, we live all in it. But we have different resources in different countries, and we will not going to have a one solution fits all of us. We need to keep in mind that countries have different challenges when it comes to energy and different available solutions. We need to be inclusive, I think, in COP27 and 28, when we have it in Abu Dhabi. And we need to be practical about the pace. And we need to understand what it takes for us to deliver. In UAE, we're committed. We know we're working now on the details of how we are going to get there. But it's not going to be cheap. It's going to be challenging. But it will take us to work together. We need to collaborate. And we need to ensure that in conferences like this, the young minds are helping us. Those we are depending, we're going to be depending on you in your innovations, in your education. You probably have better access than all of us when we were young. And we're hoping that solutions will come from this generation and the generations to come to deliver by 2050.
I think it's important to look at recent history. Setting these net zero targets, net zero carbon targets, is good. The challenge is forcing it with policy. And already we're seeing these strong headwinds against finding necessary capital for the development of oil and gas, and hence the current challenge of supply. Similarly in refineries, etc. It's becoming more and more difficult to finance oil projects, almost impossible in some areas. Now, if you look at recent history, Europe has always been doing that. They would go quickly to policies, and they would always get the exact opposite results. They were too quick in subsidizing renewables when they were very expensive, almost bankrupted countries. Across the Atlantic, you go to the US, where they allowed the markets to function, they actually achieved the largest, by far, reduction in carbon emissions, purely through innovation. When they discovered fracking, started producing unlimited gas, they converted all their coal power stations into gas. And the amount of CO2 reduced was higher than any in the history of modern countries. So quickly imposing policy, as the Europeans always do, would probably give you the wrong results at the end. And the risk of the transition, forcing a transition too quickly, is you will go into what now people are terming greenflation. You will make it abhorrently expensive for people. Energy will be too expensive. They might even abandon the entire green initiative. It is that risky. But that's the piece of warning I would throw, just to be a bit more controversial.
Thank you so much. We move on now, finally, to His Royal Highness. Give us your final words to wrap up our session this evening.
Well, as I said, I'm very mindful of, there came a point that his head was dozing, just almost knocking the shoulder of Yasser. But I would not talk about, the last word is the word of the very young people that you see them back there, whom we are all hoping that we see them in front of us here. Again, Aramco had delivered, and that's why it is the exclusive host of this event. But it's not because it is wealth in funding and Aramco, it is wealth in competence, capabilities, engineers, and huge ambition, and they're delivering the huge ambition of Aramco, which is the ambition of the country. Therefore, we like the idea that Aramco is the exclusive host, because we know for certain that every year we can showcase what Aramco is doing, but to be honest, more important, what the country is doing, and to make me more proud, what the youth of Saudi Arabia are delivering. That's it.
A truly engaging and very encouraging discussion there. I can't thank you enough to each and every one of you for being on our ministerial panel this evening, and also for essentially kicking off the IPTC tomorrow. Good luck with that to everyone as well. A truly excellent display of transformative leadership as well. Thank you so much. I wish you nothing but the best going forward. Ladies and gentlemen, let's hear it for our panel. Thank you.
Thank you, Your Excellencies, for a truly insightful session. Dear guests, we would like to thank you for attending IPTC 2022 opening ceremony. To abide by COVID-19 precautionary measures and reduce crowding, we kindly ask you to remain seated until our designated ushers assist each row to the dining area. Seating will proceed by zones. At this moment, may I ask our guests in the first 2 rows to make their way to the gala dinner through the front door.